What's up guys, this is Astranox. It's time for the showcase of Archdemon Shadow after her buff. This is a strong hero, especially if you have her built properly, you have her in the right team supporting her, and you're fighting teams that have, strong passives that she can disable because of her seal mechanic. That seal debuff is actually really strong. And now she has a 100% chance to land it with ignore effect resistance on the skill 1 for only 10 souls. Better chance to trigger the skill 2, and she has defense break on skill 3 for 2 turns, 70% chance. Very powerful stuff. I'll talk about them later on in the video. So here we have her on immunity counter set. Counter set is definitely a solid set for her on Isla's Violence, so she can constantly remove buffs throughout the battle. Buffs are so strong, a lot of teams are relying on buffs, and immunity buff is definitely a strong one against her, right? So you need to be able to take those off with other heroes on your team or with herself, maybe relying on that Isla's Violence. More on to that in a minute. But yeah, she has quite a bit of offensive power, guys. So ability wise, it is not the super crazy, but I do have an Aureus on my knight. I have sustain with a Soul Weaver or more. Got some barriers, right? Now I push her combat genius. I have attack buff on her, so I decide to land the seal on Green Violet. I'm not disabling nothing, but the other ones have immunity set on them, so I have to wait it out. But if you have the seal on the target, what happens is that you have double the chance to trigger into the skill number 2, which attacks everyone, has a chance to apply decreased hit chance debuff, which will in turn make them miss their attack throughout the battle. So it is a survivability increase and is definitely quite powerful. If she does trigger the skill number 2, she's actually getting a combat genius push for herself, so she's going to be able to cycle faster. It's great when you have the skill 1 trigger from a counter attack, right? And then it follows into the skill number 2. That's some free damage happening throughout the battle. And the seal is actually really cool because it lands on the target before you deal damage to them. So that means you're going to be able to land seal on evasion based heroes, no problem. That's cool. So, like Remnant Violet, that's definitely a pesky hero that you can deal with using Archdemon Shadow. All sorts of super dangerous passives are in the game, like Ram. If you can disable her passive, that's definitely very strong. Like an Arbiter Vildred, he's not going to be able to come back to life, and trigger that greater attack buff and just land so much damage on your team. You definitely don't want that. So you're going to be able to do these things with Archdemon Shadow. But she has a 75% chance to trigger Seal, right, with the skill number 1. So it is pretty important that you save your souls to soul burn her skill number 1, which will have ignore effect resistance. Huge deal right there, because you're not going to have to build a bunch of effectiveness on Archdemon Shadow. Now her skill number 3, you got a chance to land defense break. So skill 3, you need to have 5 focus. It takes time to build that. It's sort of like a, you win more because you're already winning, or things are going well. Your team's stable. She got the 5 focus. But the thing is, even if your team started to go down and Archdemon Shadow is still alive, there's a lot of moments, that's even before her buff, before she's got defense break, better chance to trigger skill 2 and the ignore effect resistance on skill number 1. I was able to come back. I was able to win quite a few battles because I had my 5 focus and I was able to unleash skill 3 into the skill 1, and sometimes I was able to land the seal, or I just got lucky and I triggered the skill 2. So imagine, it's her turn, she's got 5 focus. You use skill 3, it deals damage against everyone. You apply some burn debuff against them, so every time they're going to go, they're going to take damage from the burn. And then you also have now the defense break debuff that you can apply on them, so that's going to be like a ton more damage that you're able to deal against them to clean up, to finish the battle. So that's definitely very dangerous. Definitely a dangerous hero if she builds 5 focus. And then you got a skill 1, so basically you pick a hero that has defense break on them. They're still fairly healthy, right? Because maybe some of the other heroes, they have burn debuff on them. So maybe when they go, they're going down, right? So what you're gonna do is focus on the healthier heroes that have defense break on them, and you land the skill 1. Hopefully they don't have immunity buff. and then, you know, you land the seal, you got, you know, instead of a 40% chance to, you know, trigger the skill number 2, it is double the chance. When you have seal on the target, double the chance to you know, chain into the skill number 2. And it's just so much damage throughout the battle. Every time I'm looking at battle results when I'm using Archdemon Shadow, I'm quite surprised by the damage that she's able to do. You don't need to trigger counter-attack per se throughout the battle like a bunch of times. She's still going to deal quite a bit of damage. But if you do manage to trigger some counter-attacks, she's going to cycle faster. You're going to have some free damage happening. You're going to be able to build your focus faster, which means you're going to be able to, you know, in turn use the skill number 3 faster. And that's definitely deadly. The faster you use the skill 3, the better it's going to be. But I most definitely prefer her on a slower build and try to put that counter set to good use. She's a mage, she has a lot of defense, so you could accentuate on that. You could like build more defense, maybe defense percentage substats on her. I wouldn't per se go with like defense percentage main stat, let's say boots or ring on her. That's the thing. I do like her the way I have her built. Like attack percentage on my ring, let's say. It could be your ring, could be your boots. And one of them could be like health percentage main stats. And the necklace, you know, with a crit damage necklace, it works out well, but you're gonna have to pump that crit chance on her. So, you know, you're gonna be able to deal some pretty sweet damage throughout the battle with all these skill 1s, especially into skill number 2. But you need to land the seal. That is the thing. And now she has ignore effect resistance. It doesn't matter how much effect resistance they have on them. You know, they could have 300% on a martial artist scan. They could have 300%, 200% plus on like a Rowana. Rowana is actually a counter to Archdemon Shadow if you cannot land seal on Rowana to stop her passive. Because every time you trigger skill 1 into the skill number 2 with Archdemon Shadow, every time you trigger a counter attack, it's just going to heal their team. And you're not going to be able to deal damage enough to counter that healing happening. Unless you can land like unhealable on them. But really like shutting down Rowana's passive with a Soulburn skill 1 to ignore effect resistance and land the seal is beautiful. And you're going to be able to do that against a bunch of other heroes. You know, it could be martial artist scan built with super high effect resistance. So you could just land the seal very easily on him. He's not going to be able to counter attack you. It's beautiful. So of course, you know, if you don't have the souls, that could be problematic. Maybe you're facing a Bellion team, so maybe you have a mage with the Gil's Ancient Book beside Archdemon Shadow because she's wearing like a different artifact. It could be like Isle's Valiant. It could be Abyssal Crown. Landing some stuns here and there throughout the battle could definitely be quite powerful, and you could win new games because of that. But I do like the Isle's Valiant because it's so many chances for you to remove buffs from the enemy, and she can quite often trigger her skill number 2, especially if you land the seal on them, which is easier now because you can ignore effect resistance and have 100% chance when you soulburn skill 1. That's happening, you know, AoE attack against the enemy team constantly, and it's removing buffs on top of dealing damage, you know. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on when you're using Archdemon Shadow, and that's great. So you don't need to bring her against a team that has like so many different heroes that have a deadly passive. It could just be that 1 or maybe 2 heroes that you want to disable their passive. So like in this particular team, there's Arbiter Vildred, right? So landing seal on him would be quite helpful. But maybe your team is so tanky, you know, you got multiple layers of protection. It's not that big of a deal if you don't land the seal on Arbiter Vildred, especially if you're trying to take him out early on. Maybe you don't have the souls just yet, you need to build them up. Maybe you get lucky with a counter attack and you're already softening up their team. Arbiter Vildred goes down before you're able to land the seal. Something like that. There's quite a bit of different scenarios that could happen. But as long as your team is like sort of like rock solid, you got those layers of protection. I mean, best case scenario would be like you got a defense buff going on yourself and the enemy cannot take that defense buff off. If you have a knight with Aureus, especially if you have sustain on top of that, you got healing from a Soul Weaver, it's definitely going to make for a very strong team. So the other thing that is very cool with Archdemon Shadow is that her memory imprints, you get them for free. Well, it's not free, but I mean, you don't need copies of like you know, Archdemon Shadow or like an RGB version of Mercedes, you can just buy them for gold transmit stone. So very good, very free to play friendly as well, and you're gonna get some free health for top and bottom position, which is it's actually quite helpful. Anyways, let us know what you guys think about Archdemon Shadow after her buff in the comment section. That's it for this one. I'm Astranox. Good luck with all ya do. Peace out for now.